Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode from our podcast Land Talks, brought to you by G20 Global Land Initiative. Today we have Mikhail Haruna. Mikhail, welcome to our podcast. We are so happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mikhail, would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, my name is Mikhail Haruna Daya. I am from Nigeria, and I am the founder Drylands Initiative for Ecosystem Restoration and Capacity Building.
Wow. This is DINERCAB.
Yes, DINERCAB.
DINERCAB. You're most welcome to this new episode, and let me ask you first. What are some of the most innovative agroforestry techniques currently driving land restoration efforts and how they are shaping the future of sustainable land management?
Thank you. One peculiar thing or strategy that we employ at DINERCAB when it comes to agroforestry, it's community driven. We go to the communities, and not only did we advocate for agroforestry, we allow the communities to first say this is the solution to this problem. How do we do that? We ask them of their problems as it relates to land degradation. And from there, we then ask them what are the solutions to these problems. It is from that we then bring out agroforestry as part of the solutions to their problems.
Yes.
And not only that, we don't go then give them seedlings to plant, but we ask them, what seedlings do you think will thrive better in your communities? We do this because these communities are learned when it comes to their environment. They are the masters of that environment.
Of course.
They know it, and they know how to manage the environment better than any other person. So from there, we give them the seedlings to plant, to nurture, and to maintain.
Great. That's a great approach,
Exactly.
actually.
And aside from that, because we are working in the drylands,
Yes.
we try to ensure that we then train the communities on rainwater harvesting systems, from micro catchments to ponds, where they can store large amount of water to use during dry spells.
Okay, great. That's really good to know, Mikhail. So my next question to you is, can you share examples of successful land restoration initiatives from the Sudano-Sahelian belt in northern Nigeria that could serve as inspiration for other regions worldwide?
Yes, of course. So in 2017, we served as more or less like resource persons to the IFAD International Fund for Agricultural Development project. It's called Climate Change Adaptation and Agribusiness Support Program. There, what makes that peculiar, and it was a model that we adopted. It's community driven. We go to the communities and we conducted what we call participatory land use planning. And this really helped in giving the communities a sense of ownership. And before the participatory land use planning, usually communities first, there is this institutional building in the communities.
Yes.
You go to the communities and you form an association that is gender balanced, that is inclusive, not just in terms of gender or ethnicity, but also other land users. You have the pastoralists, you have the farmers, fishermen, and what have you. In doing that, you have an understanding between all land users on how to manage their environment and to restore the ecosystem.
That's great.
Yes, and this particular initiative cut across the Sahelian belt of northern Nigeria, from Kebbi State to Sokoto to Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Borno, and Yobe State.
Wow.
Yes, I'm talking about more than 1,000 communities have
That's a lot.
benefited from this project.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a success because one of the vital things that led to the success of this initiative is because it is participatory. It is community driven.
Yes. This is such an amazing thing, Mikhail. So let's talk about land degradation and the conflicts. How do we understand connection between the land degradation and the rise of conflicts? And what can be done to address these interconnected challenges?
Thank you very much for this very important question. For me, coming from Yobe State,
Yes.
it's something that really hits me very closely. in Yobe State and in fact Borno State, in northern Nigeria now, we have the Boko Haram crisis.
Yes.
The Boko Haram crisis started very close to the Lake Chad. And we all know that the Lake Chad is shrinking. The land degradation is also affecting a lot of people around there. So when people lose their livelihood, you know what happens. The youthfulness, poverty, and hunger, they don't mix very well. So what we have come to realize is when you go to the communities, we ask them, what was your yield before now? A person that was recording 100 bags of maybe rice or maize, today he's recording 10 bags. This is another indicator. Another indicator that we have noticed is the rural-urban migration. A young man will sell out his land to go to the urban areas to be selling sugarcane. When he lost that sugarcane, he has nothing to fall back to.
Yes.
That is the only thing he can fall back to. The easy target is to go into crimes, which has really, really affected our population. We used to have the problems of Boko Haram in the northern part of the country. Now it has gone into banditry. So what we kept on advocating, telling people in position of authority is you have to address the root causes. Otherwise, when you finish with this problem, another one will emanate.
Makes very sense.
And that is because the circumstances are there. So if you have the circumstances that are favorable for conflict, conflict will just emanate.
Precisely.
And
Yeah.
if you also create another circumstance elsewhere, the same thing, conflict will emanate. So the land is degrading. During that participatory land use planning that we did, part of what we do is to identify the problems as it relates to climate change, land degradation. And most of the problems you see is gully erosion, soil infertility, deforestation, most of this, and then pests and diseases. You see, all these things, they were not there before. And the communities, they are helpless. This is something that you see on their faces. Sometimes
Such a pity.
you ask them, and I've learned not to even ask them because it's more or less like a mockery.
Yeah.
Because when you tell them, when they tell you, we are facing gully erosion in this community, and then you ask them, what are you doing to solve these problems? You see the frustration on their faces.
Yes.
They know the solutions to this problem, but they don't have the technical and financial wherewithal to solve these problems. And that is why at DINERCAB, we're coming in to build their capacity so that they can solve their problems themselves.
Great. Great. This is very helpful.
Thank
actually.
you.
So let's talk about shaping the global restoration agenda. In your view, what key steps should be taken to shape a global land restoration agenda that meets the environmental and social challenges of our times? From your point of view.
Thank you very much. Our name, Drylands Initiative for Ecosystem Restoration and Capacity Building. We started our activities in 2017, but we registered in 2021. And part of the reason we named it Drylands Initiative for Ecosystem Restoration and Capacity Building is because this is the decade for ecosystem restoration.
Correct.
We want to be key players. And there is something G20 is doing, and I'm not saying it because I'm talking to you.
Okay.
It has to do with bringing all stakeholders on board. Stakeholders like legislators. I was happy when I see the Changemakers Academy because we as practitioners, we know the level of frustration we have, the challenges we have when you're dealing with government, when the laws are not in your favor. We want women who are the key drivers of this restoration agenda, but they don't have access to land. Now we have legislators who can bring out laws that will assist women
Yes.
in having access to land. So these are some of the key steps, bringing all stakeholders on board. Stakeholders that might not be obvious, like the legislators. These are people that make the laws. These are the enablers. These are the change makers, as you rightly call them. And then other stakeholders like the vulnerable people in the communities, not only women, not only the children, the physically challenged, the people that have no voices. In Nigeria, we have the pastoralists. Most people are farmers, but we have the pastoralists who are more or less conservative. bring them out. They have problems. During the participatory land use planning, we make sure that we bring all members of the communities, including the pastoralists, and you will be shocked at some of the inputs they give out as to why and how we can solve the problems of land degradation in those communities. So stakeholder engagement is very important, and I believe it should be the first step. The second step is the capacity building. You need to be on board and then try to ensure that there is a connectivity in the restoration efforts. In as much as climate change and land degradation is location specific, but there is still room for knowledge sharing, for farmer to farmer sensitization, community to community sensitization. The half moon and the Zai that today we are celebrating, it was borrowed from Burkina Faso, the Zai particularly, and it's making a lot of impact across the Sahel. And these are some of the things. We need to document this knowledge, and then we share the knowledge with the communities as a form of community capacity building. Not only that, we have to then go further in seeing that we provide the needed finance for this restoration effort. I don't even want to go there because a lot has been said on finance and how it is not reaching the smallholder farmers, the people at the communities. The communities and the indigenous communities have no access to the climate finance we've been making noise about, but I don't want to delve into that. Then we need to go further in seeing that this indigenous knowledge are being documented. I've mentioned that the knowledge sharing. So not only the knowledge sharing, when projects end, what are the lessons learned? And how do we see that the challenges we have faced today, we are not experiencing it in the next 2 days? And these are some of the things that we need to bring on board. Another thing is the participatory land use planning I talked about, the peculiarity of the communities. In my country, we have 36 states. In these 36 states, we have 777 local governments. In a particular local government, you can have a local government that has several problems, but then another community might not even be bothered about that problem. Let me give you an example. A community in Yobe State, then we have Machina. Machina is a desertified community, is arid, and then very close to Machina, we have wetlands. Nguru is a wetland, is one of the premier Ramsar sites in Nigeria. They have water, but then Machina has a hard strata that is very difficult for them to get water. Then very close to Machina, we have Unisari, where we have Memalari. Memalari is sitting on sand dunes, but the sand dunes is not their problem. It's the gully erosion that is eating into the sand dunes. So what do you say if you go to these communities and decide to say that Yobe State, this is what we are going to do for Yobe State? In Memalari, if you tell them, do you need sand dune stabilization? They will tell you, okay, stabilize the gully erosion for us first.
Yes.
When you go to Machina and you tell them that we can see you have problem with desertification, desert encroachment, they will tell you that we first need water to drink. And then you go to Nguru wetlands. They will tell you that you'd say that we have wetlands, but taifa grasses have taken over our wetlands. How do we address that? So we have to tailor our restoration efforts to each community, community by community, for us to achieve the desired results.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. I think you have nailed it when it comes to restoration agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My final question for you is, based on your experience, what is the undeniable truth about restoration?
Okay.
What do you think? If each community started on working on land restoration, what are the outcomes?
The undeniable truth is we are going to have sustainability. Sustainability is the result of restoration efforts. Why do I say this? Because when you restore the land, that is what will bring continuity. Do you know that there are communities that are now relocating? Not because of drought, not because of conflicts, but because of gully erosion, riverbanks erosion, eating their communities, and they will have to relocate. When these communities will fight hard to preserve their ancestral lands, but they cannot fight nature.
Exactly.
So, but when you restore the land, that is what you have. You have sustainability, you have peace and stability. In Nigeria, we are feeling the brunt of that negligence. Years and years of negligence have brought us to where we are today. But we hope that in the coming years, we are going to correct these mistakes and Nigeria, from the ashes of these conflicts, will flourish to have a greater northern Nigeria.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I don't want this conversation to stop, but unfortunately, we came to the end of our episode today. I would like to thank you so much, Mikhail, for being with us today. It was such a pleasure to have you with us. And for our audience, allow me to thank Mikhail Haruna. And please stay tuned for more podcasts coming from the G20 Global Land Initiative. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me, Soumya.
Thank you.